So Nick, the car guy, his YouTube channel, he reached out to me and he asked me what it would take to get the valve cover off of this Fusion of mine. I got a 1.5 liter Ecoboost. It takes quite a bit. You got to disconnect the high pressure fuel pump, fuel line that comes around to the fuel rail. Once you disconnect that, it's no longer usable. It has to be replaced. I've seen guys reuse it on their own personal cars and be perfectly fine, but never under warranty. And then there is 4 bolts that go through the fuel injector rail. They're 4 long 10mm bolts. They're supposed to be replaced, not reused. But again, I've seen guys on personal vehicles reuse those bolts. And then you got to reach down inside that valve cover, and there's a couple fuel injector clips that you got to reach like with a pair of really long needle nose pliers and unclip the fuel injectors and then unsnap them from the rail and moving them off to the side. And then when you get into the cylinder head and you go to pull the fuel injectors out of it, there's seals that are only one-time install. And then you actually have to have a new fuel injector kit and installation kit to reinstall those fuel injectors, because sometimes they don't go back in correctly, so you need new seals. And then sometimes when you go to pop the fuel line, the rail will actually unsnap from the fuel injectors that are still down in the cylinder head. So even though you get the rail out of the way, now at this point you can go around and start undoing all of your 10mm bolts for your valve cover. You still got to get those injectors out that are stuck down in there, and they make a special tool that goes down and grabs the top of the fuel injector, and you got to use like a slide hammer that screws into this tool, and you pop, 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 and it pulls the injector out of the head. So just to replace the valve cover gasket on these 1.5 liter Ecoboost, the fuel rail has to be removed. You're supposed to replace the 10mm bolts that hold the rail down to the cylinder head. You're supposed to replace the high pressure fuel line that goes from the pump over to the rail. And then once you get all the injectors unplugged, hopefully you don't destroy the connectors, because they're really hard to pull off sometimes. You got to pull that line out of the way, and then you still have to do all the work. You may as well go ahead and put plugs and stuff in while you're there as well, because all the ignition coils got to be pulled off before you even start this job. Then the high pressure fuel line, the fuel injector rail, then you have to have a rebuild kit for the injectors when you go to set them all back in. Then there's a special tool kit that you have to use to fit the Teflon seals or the new seals back to the fuel injector. It's a sizing tool and a cup tool that's got like a ramp that as you push it up, it stretches the Teflon ring, and as it slides over the injector, you take a sizing tool that has a taper to it and you keep running it back and forth over it and twisting until it shrinks the seal back to the injector. So it's no easy feat to actually get the valve cover off of the vehicle, and the only reason that is because Ford builds these ribs that transfer back and forth in the center, and you can't clear those little ribs that connect both sides without removing the fuel rail from the vehicle. I'll take you out there and show you a little bit right now. Okay, so here's the fuel rail, and you see I got a couple that split off and I had to use the tool to pull it out. Here's the high pressure fuel line, and there's the line that attaches to the pump that attaches to the rail, and this has got to be pulled out in order to get to the center of the motor. And then once you get to the center of the motor, you have to have a new fuel rail, and then you have to have a new rebuild kit for the injectors. And then once you get in there further, the tool kit that you need to install everything is this tool kit here, OTC 310-207. But then a lot of guys don't like the actual part that comes with it, so they go out and they buy this. There's the puller. A lot of guys don't like the part that comes with it, so they go out and grab this OTC 303-1567. And then the puller is 310-206, and that's a Rotunda fuel puller. And it doesn't fit the injector properly. You got to hold your hand around it while you pop it. That's it. That's how you remove that. Called up front, but I wanted to come out here and show you what it looks like and why you can't get in there. This is where the fuel pump would sit. I'm building this motor right now. I put a new block and everything in it right now for the coolant intrusion recall. And then, ironically, 20 minutes ago, 30 minutes ago, a Fusion came in here, and it also has a coolant intrusion. This is for an escape. I just pulled a Fusion in here, and now I got to do that one as well, that motor. But you can see here, all these, this bridge that goes across here, it stops you. The fuel injector rail now goes in over top of this, and it stops you from pulling this. If a guy got crazy enough, I don't know if he could, you know what I'm saying? I'm not going to say it because, but what is the purpose of this? To hold these together for stability? I think that would be pretty much it. There's not a lot of stability in here as it is, but that's why that rail has to be pulled to get this valve cover off. And once you get this valve cover off, if you want to seal these end caps, you have to heat this up with a heat gun while prying on these real lightly until they pop. And that's on both sides. Sometimes you actually break this one. But anyway, that's how you do it.